chances are you might be using a trust to help create your legacy and your estate plans. And when you create a trust, you're faced with the decision of who to use as your trustee. And that can be an individual or it could be a corporate trustee. And when I say corporate trustee, I'm referring to trust departments. Very frequently, we see trust departments connected with, owned by large banks, or it could be a standalone trust company that does administration of trust. Pinnacle Financial Partners is a financial institution. They're a large bank with a footprint here in the Southeast. And Matt Fallaw is a trust advisor with the bank. I've asked Matt to join us today to answer some questions and tell us what it would be like working with a corporate trustee and what we might choose to work with a corporate trustee or not work with a corporate trustee. So here's Matt, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. All right, so Matt, I'm going to just kind of blend right into what we're here to talk about today, which is the trust department and how people who are taking care of their elderly parents or people who are getting older who want to make life easier for their children might utilize the tools that can be found within the scope of a trust department. And when we talk about trust, I know when we talk about trust documents and things like that, we're really talking about a wide scope of types of trust. When we're talking about the trust department of a bank, can you give me an idea of what a trust department of a bank will typically do for its clients?
Trust department of a bank does several things for their clients, but some of the key things that you would want to hit on today are, we do trust and estate administration. So if you're talking in regards to parents and kids and what could be left in a document, they're going to create a document with language where they're directing certain things happen with their funds or property, and we simply follow that language in administering that document, that trust. We do estate settlement. We do philanthropic type advice and planning. We will serve in, at least Pinnacle will, in a financial power of attorney situation, conservatorship, special needs trust. We do bill payment and reporting, tax reporting. So a lot of parents live in one town, their kids are in another town, their parents need some help. Kind of keeps the kids from having to kind of be, from kind of managed from a distance when we can work with parents and help them with some of those bills as they hit a certain point. We do IRA administration. We can manage real property, special assets that can be commercial or residential inside of a trust.
Okay, so it's pretty much turnkey. There's a lot that you can do. It's really just up to you and the client setting the dial as to how involved they want you to be.
Correct.
In the trust administration. As a financial advisor, I'm dealing with publicly traded securities. But in the bank, you mentioned real estate. So you can also help people who have, a lot of people do have not just their primary residence, but investment real estate, something that I'm not in a position to help with, but you can do that.
Correct. We do. A lot of people, as part of their diversified portfolio, so they may have some income producing real estate, and they want us to hold that real estate and sometimes to manage it for them. Depending on the type of real estate, some I have a little bit more direct management with, and then there are cases where I may hire a property manager, somebody to negotiate certain leases, just because that's more their day-to-day specialty. But we can administer that through a trust with income producing properties or investment properties and residential real estate.
As I mentioned before, you also manage investments, publicly traded investments, but your bank is somewhat unique, at least among most of the banks that I run into, in that you would work with me as a financial advisor in the scope of a delegated trust. Can you explain that a little bit?
We will do that. We are one of the few banks and trust departments that will work with outside investment managers. But if you have a client, or we run into somebody that has a money manager like yourself, Drew, we have the ability to serve as trustee and work with you as that manager. And we do it a couple of different ways. We try to do it the simplest way, but most of the time what we do is we just, you will run the money. We kind of oversee, take care of the administrative parts of that trust, whatever they have set up. and we work, kind of work out a shadow accounting type deal for the trust and trust reporting. But yes, we work with you as a team member and that family to administer that trust while you run the money.
And I can see a potential advantage of that for a client who's looking for strategies that perhaps are outside the scope of what your trust department is doing. So, for example, a covered call or hedging strategies, or things that are a little bit outside the norm of the specialty of the trust department investment team.
Correct, because we don't, in general, we're not going to get into some of the covered calls and some of the stuff. When I got my license, there were things I said, I don't ever want to mess with a naked straddle or something. So there are things you do that we don't want to do, and it certainly has a place in some portfolios. So yes, we are open to being that delegated. We do the trustee work. You do the fancy stuff.
Over the years, the trust that I've seen created will typically, they'll involve family members. Why would they choose a corporate trustee like your bank versus a family member?
I think there's several reasons you would want to go with a corporate trustee versus a family member. I'll just run through two or three, but I'm going to hit on one that I think is the most important. You've got expert management, and probably most of these family members, they have other duties. They have a full-time job. It's just not something they do day to day like we do. Neutrality. We're a one-stop shop. We have a high standard of care. So as far as being a corporate fiduciary at a high standard of care, we put your needs above anything else. I would like to think a family member would do that, but you could have a family member that he's looking at his needs and maybe not his siblings or his parents. I think the biggest thing is the neutrality of the situation. We don't have any ties that are beneficiaries. We don't have any ties. We're simply doing our job as a corporate fiduciary. And I like to tell people, we take the emotion out of it. We take the emotional stress and strain that a family member or a friend could be subject to when serving. And it just puts us in a better position.
I think the fiduciary role that you would play is very important, because I've seen a lot of families just run into real stressful situations when somebody's doing something that's not agreed upon by the other people. So the accountability, the neutrality, and taking the emotion out of it is, I think that right there is a very important reason why somebody should consider a corporate trustee.
Families get along till you introduce money into the equation. And when money's introduced into the equation, there's always a little tweak there. So, a corporate fiduciary is not going to be biased by any of the beneficiaries, by their choices, their present lifestyle. And, we simply have a job to do. And that's what we do each and every day, and hopefully do it well and to the terms of that document that somebody's laid out.
So someone who's interested in working with your bank to create a trust, what are the types of fees that they're going to see?
Depending on what we do, but I would say pretty basically from a Pinnacle standpoint, we've got an all-inclusive fee that's based on the market value. For full trust administration, let's just say the first million is going to be at 1.15%, and it's based on that market value. We use a sliding scale. On the delegated trust, where we would work with you, we have a fee schedule for that. I can just, quote offhand that it's 50 basis points on the first 2 million, goes down after that. But we'll work with the family on what our duties are going to be. We work with the other money manager because we want things to kind of be favorable and economically feasible for everybody involved.
Tell people how the bank is involved with the actual creation of a trust.
If somebody called me today and said, hey, I've heard about these trusts, what do I need to do? First thing we're going to do is just have a conversation. Kind of, why do you think you need a trust? What are you trying to do with your estate plan? What is your legacy? They may not need a trust. They may just need money management. So we try to decide what they'll really need. We do not create trust. I help somebody come up with a financial roadmap, if you will, for their estate plan, and then we help them implement that. And if it includes a trust, we may help them think through what they want to do with that trust. But then we would probably recommend 2 or 3 attorneys. I always say you need to talk to them, make sure you are a good fit with a particular attorney that'll meet your needs. And then attorneys actually draw up the documents. So they don't do, most of them don't do trust work, and I don't draw up documents.
A trust can be created so that Pinnacle, your bank, is placed in there at some point so that my son could say, well, I'm going to allow Pinnacle to take over the become the successor trustee and administer the trust moving forward.
Correct. When we go to create, so going back to what we were talking about a minute ago, when we go to create a document, we ask the client to put certain things in. And some of that is, if, we don't have a problem naming a family member, we'll give them the pluses and minuses, but having language in there so a successor can be named in those cases like that. We also like the language in there that we can resign if we reach a point where it doesn't make sense for us to manage a trust. So we try to create the language that makes it easier, but they could come in, probably amend that trust with not a lot of effort to name a corporate trustee in place of an individual trustee in a case where maybe a child has moved across country, or somebody they've named, a brother, sister, is deceased and they need a new trustee.
Mm-hmm. We're hopefully coming out of the whole COVID experience. And I think that's kind of emphasized the need to have alternative arrangements, such as having a successor trustee like the bank who's got a whole team of people who can step in at any given time. Have you seen over the last 12 months or so an increase in utilization of your trust services?
I don't know, just related to COVID, but I think we have seen an increase where we've had more calls and people wanting just to look at their estate plans because of kind of what they experienced. Some of it could have been because they did not see a parent. Somebody had aging parents in a nursing home. They were not able to see, but wasn't that they couldn't, they just weren't able to see a parent for 12 to 16 months. And there could have been times where they needed something more of a corporate fiduciary that was close by, that could navigate a little bit better in taking care of a parent. So we have people that are putting things in place, and not to mention some of the untimely deaths due to COVID brought a lot of attention to, I need to have my affairs in order.
Matt, I'm going to make sure that we put your contact information below so that anybody who wants to reach out to you can schedule an appointment. I want to thank you for your time here today, and I know we'll find an opportunity to work together moving forward.
All right. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.